Welcome back to another episode of Diabetes 180 with Louis Burtis, your physician assistant and diabetes reversal health coach. Today we're answering a very commonly asked question: what is a refined carb? I know we've asked that at least one time in our life. What is refined carbs? What does it mean when someone says that they're cutting back on refined carbs? So I'm going to try to simplify this because it can be complicated, but I'm going to try to simplify this and explaining refined carbs in three categories, okay? Sugars, refined sweeteners, and refined grains. I'm going to put refined carbs into these three categories so that you can understand once and for all when you're going shopping what a refined carb is versus obviously one that's not refined. So to understand what a refined carb is, you first got to understand what is a unrefined carb. A whole or complex carb is a carb that has many chained monosaccharides. A monosaccharide is the simplest form of sugar, chained together to form what's called a polysaccharide. So think of an unrefined carbohydrate is a carbohydrate that is many chains of sugars linked together, cross-linked together, you could call it in a complex matrix that locks in micronutrients like minerals, vitamins, phytochemicals, antioxidants, and this all in a fibrous, you could think of the fiber as like a cement block in a fibrous chain that holds together powerful nutrients that prevent disease and also keep you healthy. So a complex carb is a long chain of sugars that are all holding together micronutrients for your health and longevity. That's why you should be eating more complex carbs and less refined carbs. So what is a refined carb? A refined carb now is what happens when you break up the chains of monosaccharides and you're left with either, number one, a sugar, the sweet stuff that we're all familiar with, that's added to everything, almost everything, right? Table sugar is one form of simple sugar, high fructose corn syrup. Okay, these sugars add calories to our meals, yes, but they're made mainly to make them sweeter. A sugar is we don't need to explain why sugar is bad for you. We all know sugar is bad for us. The pure white deadly stuff is what is once been called. And sugar is unhealthy. We know it's empty calories, devoid of all nutrients. Okay, but what about refined sweeteners? So refined sweeteners, like sugar, are made for their sweetness. But except refined sweeteners usually generally don't add much calories or 0 calories to a meal. So a refined sugar is bad for you. Well, think about this. So you take a complex carb, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, right? And what they do is they refine it into its simplest form, whether it be milling or cracking or distilling and boiling, extracting. Think of a complex chemistry procedure that this food goes through to leave you with a little crystal, a powder, or a syrup that now can flavor your foods, your breads, your pastas, okay, your pastries, your cakes, your ice creams. These are added to foods or sold to make them sweet. What is wrong with this? Well, the first thing is it doesn't have any nutritional value, obviously, but it doesn't really help our natural gut bacteria. There are many studies that show man-made sweeteners, artificial refined sweeteners can harm our natural gut bacteria because our gut bacteria is not designed for this chemistry procedure. This chemical byproduct of man-made invention that we convince ourselves is food. So it upsets our gut flora. Another thing that's wrong in the long term is that if you're still using refined sweeteners, what you're doing is you're robbing your taste buds of the ability to enjoy food in its whole natural state. So that when you try to sit down and enjoy and transition, I should say, to a whole food plant-based diet, it becomes very difficult because you're still used to the taste of sugar even though it's refined sugar, it's still robbing your taste buds of enjoying the natural sugars that come from complex carbs like fruits and vegetables, and enjoying them in abundance, okay? So it makes it very hard to transition to a healthy diet when you're still using refined sweeteners. It's hard on our gut bacteria, and it adds zero nutritional value, okay? So let's move on to refined grains, the third category of refined carbs. Refined grains are a little easier to explain, but definitely just as controversial when it comes to, knowing what's good and what's bad. So a refined grain, if you think about a whole grain still has two things. It has a grain and bran and a germ, right? That's the outer husk or shell of the wheat, of the grain, that holds all the most nutrients, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, phytochemicals, the plant compounds that protect it from disease, protect you as well. So when you take off the bran and the germ, you're left with what's called the endosperm. That's the starchy leftover of the grain. And in that starch, yes, it does have some micronutrients in it, but not nearly as much as the bran and the germ. Leaving that off, you're left with a starchy leftover with minimal nutrients. So it's still better than your refined sweeteners and your sugar, because at least the leftovers has some nutritional value. But however, because there's no fiber, right? It no longer has that reinforcing cement holding all of those nutrients together. It passes through your system very fast, these refined grains, leading to blood sugar elevations, insulin resistance, high triglyceride levels, and liver disease in the long run. And so that's why refined grains, without their bran and germ, they're not as healthy, okay? But don't be fooled by the food products that tell you that something's whole grain in the store, because FDA essentially has no regulation on companies calling something whole grain or whole wheat, okay? It could have as little as 15% of the fiber or the whole bran and germ, and 85% is a starchy leftover, and they'll still get away with calling it a whole wheat product, okay? So we want to enjoy foods in their as close to their natural state as they're found in nature, okay? And that's what we teach on the Diabetes 180 program. If you're looking to transition to a whole food plant-based diet and get rid of the refined carbs in your life to experience the best health of your life, check the links in the bio section and we'll hook you up not only with a free consultation to work with a health coach and helping you with the transition, but also free recipes, free meal plans. What do you have to lose? So check the links in the bio section. As always, beloved, I pray above all things that you may prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. See you next week.